Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our General Finance Committee meeting. I would like to call this meeting to order. It is currently 9:02 a.m. Would like to confirm that we do have quorum and continue to be in a hybrid format whereby some members of council are on. Councillor Zavitz is suggesting that he can't hear. Is that? Councillor Zavitz, can you hear us? Council. Glenn?
Oh, he can't hear. Someone texted to check his. Say something.
Well, I think I've just done that. I think he's, I think somebody is going to follow up with Councillor Zavitz. Is that?
Okay. Fine.
Didn't see that on the.
Can you hear us now, Councillor Zavitz? Yes?
Thank you.
Okay, so you might want to put yourself back on mute. Fantastic. Okay, I'll just go start again then. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is now, let's see, 9:03 a.m. We continue to be in a hybrid format, so have some members of committee online. And I would like to confirm, in fact, we have quorum. I believe Councillor Kent is not in attendance today. I'd like to confirm that we have our CAO clerk and members of the senior management teams here and staff here and present today. Continue to advise our public to provide input via the email address tmlpubliccomment@muskokalakes.ca. And at this point, none was received. Reminder that today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. There was no supplementary agenda issued, and so at this point, I'd like to ask committee if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest. Mayor Kelley.
Thank you. And through you, I will be declaring on the arena discussion, which I don't have a number for right now, but when we get to the arena discussion, I will recuse because I own real estate in proximity.
Okay, thank you. Any other disclosures? Okay, thank you. Fantastic. So at this point, we are going to move on to we have two invited presentations this morning. And the first one is our OPP Detachment Commander. Mr. Beebe, would you like to join us at the podium? And given it's an invited presentation, folks, that we have up to 10 minutes to listen, and then we'll have the same format of being able to ask questions. So welcome. Oh, sorry. I think, yeah, just put on the microphone on the.
Is it on now?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes. Councillor Zavitz is saying yes. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to come and speak to council, and it's always nice to have the ability to demonstrate what the organization's done for your community, specifically Muskoka Lakes, which I'll highlight for you today. And then I'll open it up to some questions if you have any at the end. Is that fair format? Okay. I did send it ahead of time. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I am going to go through some of these numbers with you. I'm not going to focus too much. I would say when it says all area codes, if you see at the top, that's all of Muskoka. I'm going to focus at the bottom, which specifically correlates to your area, specifically to Muskoka Lakes. So if you can see, I'm going to talk about each individual. So patrol bicycle, we did have officers trained in bicycle patrol in 2024. We did increase our enhancement of officers who are trained on bicycles in 2025. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of patrol hours in here, as well as even Muskoka, due to operational. We didn't have the capacity to have them out too much on bicycles, unfortunately. Patrol cruiser, you can see we're up 158% from 2023 to 2024. And even this year to date, as you can see, with 2,200 hours, we're even increased in 2025 of general patrol cruiser in your area. Our foot patrol has an increase 659%. That includes all of your communities, Bala, Port Carling, And that doesn't happen during the day. We also do foot patrol at night. We're grabbing door handles, we're checking properties, we're doing foot patrol to make sure that we're preventing crime. And then as you can see, year to date, 2025, we're about 240. We're down a little bit this year in foot patrol. School patrols are directly related to beginning of school year, where we put officers in positions for schools. We're down a little bit, 3.25 this year compared to 4.5 in 2023, and 2024 we have an increase of 3 hours. And then snowmobile patrol, it says 94 hours update this year. That's not accurate. We haven't had any snow yet, so that's a discrepancy in data. But the 2023 to 2024, we're down a little bit, just because the season last year was a little challenging for us. Operational considerations was a challenge, and we had obviously the big challenge of snowstorm, and the snowmobiles we didn't even have them on trails. Trails weren't open, so the hours weren't really there until near the end of the season. If you take a look to the right of the Excel spreadsheet, we're going to talk specifically about the corporate Big Four. The Big Four includes impaired driving, seatbelts, distracted driving, and speeding. As you can see, 299% increase in your area. And this year already 703 hours dedicated to the Big Four. So we'll see another increase in 2025. Directed local patrols is specifically trends that we see in your area that require us to do some directed patrols due to analytics. 41% increase from 2023 to 2024. And as you can see, we're already increased in 2025 of 598 hours. And then general patrol, 258% increase in your area. And as you can see, we've almost doubled that to 1,300 hours for general patrol in Muskoka Lakes with officers doing their jobs out in patrolling areas and cruisers. So we go to the next tab in the summary patrol. And I'm just going to describe to you what that looks like. At the bottom, you'll see area code 2 Marine Patrol. It says a 26% increase. I'm going to say that's not accurate. It's actually around 7%. And the reason for that is we have what we call a daily activity register. That's where officers code their daily activities into our system. That's how we capture our data. The Marine program is a provincially funded program. It's not provided to the municipality for you for billing. It's paid for by the province. So that's how it's scored. It's provincially. So that 7% increase is all of Muskoka. And unfortunately, I can't drill down to each lake because the program doesn't allow me to do that. So the generality, 7% increase in Marine Patrol in year 2025 for Muskoka, not specific to Muskoka Lakes. And if you go to the right again for Marine Patrol, you'll see for General Patrol, 804 hours, so 98% increase. So we've had a significant impact in Marine this year. I will say, however, one of the observations that the officers were making, I'm not sure if you've seen the same, is that boat traffic just wasn't very heavy this year. Even some of their marinas were making that comment. So we're out in the water, but we really didn't have a lot of offenses because there wasn't a lot of boat traffic. So I'm not sure if that'll change this year. Our program won't change. We're actually trying to make it a little more robust with training more officers in the off season here coming up in the spring. But right now we have 3 dedicated to the program and they stay steady to the Marine program all summer long. Operationally, sometimes it's a challenge if we have major events. And as you know, we've had 2 major critical events in the Muskoka Lakes this year. We're still working on those cases. I can't disclose where we're at with those cases, unfortunately. But obviously there are tragic situations where people lose their lives and we're investigating those. And then for community service, if you take a look, we're at 503% increase in community service for your community specifically. And I'm going to highlight just a couple of those for you, just so you understand exactly kind of what we do with our community service. We attended Glenarchy Public School and Watt Public School, both in early 2025 to speak to the intermediate students and provide education about youth and the law, and more importantly, internet safety. Each school is attended 4 to 5 times for 4 to 5 different presentations in regards to that. In May, the detachment supported the Family Safety Day in Port Carling, organized by the fire department. And in August, we went to Camp Rama to visit the campers in their Color of the Night. We also did proactive patrols for Camp Rama, and we did foot patrols in Camp Rama due to the conflicts that are hovering overseas. So we aggressively did a security plan for them. We worked with them quite extensively during the summertime. We also attended the Battle of Santa Claus Parade, Muskoka Cranberry Farm Festival. We did Hike for Hospice. And those are just some of the highlights in regards to some of our community service for your community. So I just want to highlight some property crime for you as well. Every quarter for the detachment board, I report provincial reports that are public, and you can go online and you can print them yourself. You can take a look, they're public record. But some of the things we want to talk about specifically is property crime. Organizationally, for Muskoka itself, we're down 26% in property crime. So that's a pretty good indicator that I think police presence and for us being present and doing crime initiatives have an impact on that. And then when it comes to traffic offenses, we are up and impaired substantially, about 43% in impaired drivers. That still continues to be a focus for us. Right now we have our Festive Ride campaign that's going on. And we also have right now a bail program that we're working on where we're trying to get people off the streets for active warrants. So we have officers in teams of 4 that are now looking to different communities to try and apprehend these people who are out on warrants. And that's a program that's been going on for the last 2 or 3 weeks and will go on until the end of the year. And Festive Ride runs until the beginning of January. So we're pretty active. Officers do a ride per day, foot patrol per day. They do focus patrols based on analytics. And we've had a pretty busy year in 2025, but staffing wise, we're in good position. We have a new recruit coming in February. We have a transfer coming in from another detachment in December. That'll put us around 89% frontline availability, which is really good for this detachment. Probably the highest numbers we've seen in a very, very long time, which allows us to do these proactive activities. And as you can see, with the amount of bodies we have, with the 659% increase in foot patrols, it does have an impact. So with that being said, I'm open to any question that you may have.
Thank you. Committee, Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Beebe. I have a question about 2 questions. One about the community services, because some of those events, as one of we have to pay separately for the police. So,
Okay.
so I'm very, very aware, and I know it's not, this discussion isn't about numbers with dollars for you, but I'm just aware of how much Muskoka Lakes pays for the overall policing, and I just was concerned because it seems like there might be double billing kind of thing, or that we have to pay to get you to come to Cranberry Festival, for instance. And those kind of things. That's what I was a little bit, we don't see those numbers, right?
Numbers in regards to policing costs?
We have to pay over and above. So every organization has to pay for that policing over and above the services that we get. And I'm wondering where that shows up, because it sort of sounds like the community services that you have listed, in a couple of instances, we had to pay for that policing separately.
So we attended the Cranberry, not the Cranberry Festival. That's a pay duty. I understand that. I'm talking about a hike for hospice. We went to the hike for hospice. So that's a community event. We hiked for hospice. That wasn't a paid duty.
I wasn't
It's just
gonna pick
okay. Hold
apart
on.
everyone.
Yeah,
It
just
that wasn't my point.
let's just.
So-
What I think I'm hearing is that there's services that are being provided for, paid for, and then there's outside services that the department, we can hire you to come and do, i.e. the Cranberry Festival.
Mhm.
Is that correct? Are events like the Cranberry Festival captured in these numbers?
These are numbers specific for community events, not pay duties.
Okay,
So the pay duties are above and beyond. It's not captured in community service. The community service has nothing to do with pay duty money.
thank you.
Yes.
It would
That's
be,
sorry if I misunderstood
sorry.
the question.
Right, and just again, to come through us, the chair.
it would be very interesting to find out how much other organizations are paying for policing for, every event that we're trying to put on. I do have one other question through you,
Okay.
and however you want to, we had a report delivered a few years ago at the district level about the crime on women. And in fact, it was reported that they didn't have the correct staffing in place. And so I'm concerned that where we are at with that right now. So for instance, when one situation where in that reporting that we got was that a number of issues ended up in the Toronto Star, and that's the only way we found out that people weren't getting the correct or whatever that policing issue that they needed at the time. And that we'd have to bring somebody in from out of area. So I'm very concerned about what those actions are, but I'm not quite sure that this is the table. I am very concerned that I am engaged with a few stories through the YW,
Right.
and I just don't know where our policing is for helping women at this, women in violence.
Okay, so maybe that maybe just a quick high level view of how you address, I will call it domestic violence,
So
violence
intimate
against
partner
women.
violence has, as you know, been recognized by the province and the district as a problem. We understand that. We work very closely with victim services, with Parry Sound Sex Assault Services. We do know about that report from Toronto Star. It was a few years ago for unfounded report. The OPP has, I would say, created a specific bureau directed toward victim services, BRSURU, as well as intimate partner violence oversight. Training has been provided across the province to multiple officers for unfounded events. We understand it was a data issue years ago as well, but as an organization, we have specific bureau dedicated to supporting victims. So we understand that the intimate partner violence is not acceptable, but as an organization here, we are currently working on presentations for communities. We're going to be setting it up in the new year with Muskoka Victim Services to talk about the process, what we do now to support victims, providing it as a public education forum for people to attend. And those are starting up in 2026. We're going to be hitting all 6 communities in the district, including our Indigenous community. So I hear what you're saying. The organization is not numb to it. We've been very proactive with it, and we have steps in place to help and support.
Committee, Councillor Zavitz.
Excuse me, thank you, and through you to the commander. Very concerned and interested, of course, in the whole security piece here. We hear from our constituents, they're nervous, whether it's external pressures, et cetera. It's very important that we see your people out on the roads and on the waters and doing that protective piece. So thank you for that. I guess my question to you might be, as a township councillor, how do you, or the interplay between, I suppose, our own security, that being our fire, and our bylaw people, how do you see the interplay between ourselves and yourselves in terms of as a team, as a cohesive unit? Are there more things we could do, or are there more things you could do?
So in a sense of bylaw enforcement or working together,
I guess,
that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
So bylaws reached out to me a couple times this year in regards to concerns over specific properties that might cause them physical harm due to their property owners. We've provided officers for that, created a call for service, and attended with bylaw so that they felt safe. We've done that on 2 occasions. We're open to that. If bylaw is not comfortable in issuing tickets or going to a residence that they feel unsafe with, we will help support them.
Okay. Councillor Zavitz. Okay. Councillor Roberts and then Councillor Rosenworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the commander. Just following on from my colleague's question, with this council around the table, is there one thing that we could do to help police services within the township Muskoka Lakes?
So policing is a partnership, and I will highlight a program that we worked on in Gravenhurst, and I think is a very important program. It's called CamSafe. And CamSafe is a CCTV camera program. And with Gravenhurst, we work with them to provide funding to the community to pay for cameras. And we went door to door and promoted the cameras with the municipality so that when they mount their cameras, the municipality paid for some of the cost. And what works is they register the camera on the CamSafe program. We have access to the database that shows who has a camera, not the camera footage. We can't tap into it. We can't access it. It allows us to see who has a camera in generality of the area of where the concern of crime is. And then we request the camera footage to help us with crime. It seems to work pretty good. I'm not sure, even doing foot patrol in Port Carling and even Gravenhurst, there's not a lot of cameras outside of businesses. People need to protect themselves as well. And that's what we talk about to your question is, if there's one thing I would suggest is people need to start putting CCTV footage to protect themselves, including their houses and their businesses. And CamSafe is a way to do that. it allows us to solve crime. And one example is we had a habitual break and enter artist in Gravenhurst. We were able to get CCTV footage after 4 or 5 break and enters, and they're still in custody. But without that CCTV coverage, it'd be very challenging for us to solve crime just on foot impressions and fingerprints if they're not in a database. The camera footage helps quite a bit. So if there's one suggestion I would make to the community is protect yourselves. We can't be everywhere, unfortunately, we're everywhere we need to be, but at the same time, that really helps us with criminal investigations.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through to you. Will we have a discussion after the commander leaves and under new business? May I propose that under new business, we have a,
This is an invited presentation, so
okay,
yeah.
I'll take
I
it
mean, we can
another
always
avenue.
add
Thank you.
something if we want to, but thank you. Councillor Bosenworth?
Yes, thank you. I find the trend on impaired driving most disturbing. If you could just talk about what other trends you see going on, both on land, but what also you might see going on the water. There's a lot of an awful lot. It's interesting you're saying your traffic is down, but it's the type of traffic that has changed quite dramatically in the last 5 years. So those kind of two trends we've got, on the mainland, in towns and in the rural areas, and on the water.
So one of the trends that we've seen, I just did actually a data analysis. I got it yesterday. I like to do analysis usually once every 3 months, and then we pivot resources where we see the trends to prevent things from happening. Right now, one of the trends we're seeing is speeding. We're seeing a pretty good significant increase in speeding. So what we're doing now is every platoon outside of the regular traffic is going to be doing a 1-month traffic initiative where they're going to be focusing on speeding. So LiDARs, radars are going to be used in our big areas, Highway 11, 118, 400. Every representation within our communities will start getting a little more 1 a month kind of, I would say, attention to people who are going a little faster in the communities than they should be. We also work with the district in regards to gathering data for that. So we'll put out black cats in areas that are requesting, let's say, habitual speeders. We'll gather data for 2 weeks. And if it shows the 85th percentile that we need to put cars in that position, then we do that. We use the data to show us that, because I need to make sure resources are in the right place for the right reasons. And to the other trend that we're seeing, I attended and I forget the name, I apologize, I'm not going to get it right, but I did attend a Marine Committee meeting here this summer as an OPP representative with Dave Moffat. And the biggest concern was wakeboarding and wakes going into the waterways. We understand that as policing, we don't have a lot of control, unfortunately, when it comes to wakes and how that presents environmental concerns and what happens on the waterways. That's more of a federal platform. So I understand the concern, and I understand that's a concern for this community, is the wakes that are being created by these boats. But unfortunately, we don't have any legislative control over that, but we understand that concern.
Thank you. Supplemental?
Thank you. No, a different question.
Okay.
I was very interested to hear that the Marine Patrol is funded by the province.
Mhm.
How do they come up with the level of money that they're going to give you? And do you feel that's sufficient for the number of lakes and the size of lakes that you're dealing with?
So we don't control the money part of it as a detachment. That goes through our Municipal Policing Bureau and through our financial support unit. I can't speak to that, how it's divvied up. I don't have any ability to provide you that data. I'm sorry.
And how do you feel? Do you feel you have enough coverage? I think you said you have 3 dedicated
like
officers.
1 more boat and 2 more fully trained officers.
Okay.
If I had my ideal way. We're going to hopefully train 2 more, but we have to fight for those bodies because it's a provincial program and we have to justify it. Between us and Southern Georgia Bay for Central Region and OPP, we're the biggest waterway, so it's easier for us to justify why we require it. But at the same time, we need another boat to do that, and that will come with us having conversations with the organization, procurement, and going through all those provincial processes we have to in order to get that extra boat. So that's going to be more off-season work for me, but that would be the ideal Marine program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Comments? Thank you very much. Thanks for their presentation today, and thanks for joining us on this snowy
Thank
day.
you. Appreciate it.
Our next presentation is joining us online. Mr. Cox, are you going to introduce us? Thank you.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair and members of committee. So I'm here this morning to introduce Kyra Knapp of KLB Consulting. As committee will recall, KLB is going to be developing the township's new economic development strategy in the early months of 2026. And Kyra is here this morning to introduce her team and talk a little bit about their approach to the project. So with that, I will turn it over to Kyra.
Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you so much. Can you folks see the presentation? I can't see it.
Not quite yet, but just give us a moment.
Yeah.
There we go. Can you see it now?
I sure can.
Okay, over to you.
Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. Worship, members of council. My name is Kyra Knapp. As James mentioned, I'm the CEO of KLB Consulting. We are a values-based consultancy. We work across Canada to develop community and data-driven strategies. It's really important to us that those strategies are actionable, they're implementable, and they help your community grow in a way that is socially, economically, and culturally sustainable. I'm here to walk you through our approach for updating the Township of Muskoka Lakes Economic Development Strategy for 2026 to 2030. And I'll be giving you just a bit of a high-level overview of who we are, the purpose of the project, what we're going to deliver to you in our timeline, and then how we're planning on engaging with the township, with businesses, residents, and community partners. My overall goal today is to introduce you to our team. You'll be seeing and hearing a lot from us over the coming months, inform you a bit on the process and give you a clear sense of what you can expect from us, and then give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have at the early stages. You can go to the next slide, please. So as you can see, this is very much a team effort. I always think it's important to show you the faces behind the names and who you'll be seeing in the community, and the wonderful folks that we have at KLB that are supporting the project. It is very much a team effort, and I'll be serving as your project lead, and I'm the primary point of contact. I'm going to guide the overall process and the development of the final strategy and the implementation plan. Tristan Vogel is our Economic Development and Tourism Officer. She came from RTO4, and she'll lead much of the business and tourism facing engagement. That'll include the focus groups and interviews, and she's going to help me and the rest of the team translate what we're hearing into clear priorities and actions. Aisha Smith-Belgaba is our Indigenous Relations and Cultural Diplomacy lead. Aisha's a member of Six Nations of the Grand River, and she supports relationship-based outreach with Indigenous communities and organizations, and she advises on cultural safety and protocol so that the work that we're doing with the township and the work that you're doing moving forward is aligned with reconciliation and respectful engagement of Indigenous organizations and communities. Finally, Julia Bernowski is our behind-the-scenes guru. She's our manager of projects and operations. She's going to help keep everything moving, work on a lot of our branding and document production, ensuring that it aligns with your branding guidelines and standards, and make sure that what we deliver to you is easy to read, accessible, clear, and easy for you folks to use. So as you can see, you have a full team of incredible people at the helm, and we're super excited to be working on this project with you. You can go to the next slide, please. As I mentioned before, the purpose is to refresh the township's economic development strategy so it can guide your priorities moving forward to 2030. We know we're not starting from a blank page. We're building on the 2020 strategy and other plans that you've already invested in, to ask what is still working, what needs to evolve, what new pressures, economic realities, and opportunities need to be reflected right now. And I think, as we all know, there are a number of international economic challenges that we've seen and things that have happened since 2020 that should really be reflected in the work that we're doing moving forward from an economic development perspective. Our approach very much is community-centered and equity-informed. It means we're looking at how decisions land on different groups of folks, and is grounded again in reconciliation, aligned with your municipal capacity and resources. I come from a municipal background, and I know that particularly in smaller communities that there's limited capacity. So we want to make sure that these plans can actually be fulfilled. That's super important to us. And I do want to take a second to say I've had such a wonderful experience thus far working with everybody in your community. Your staff is delightful, and kudos to you for the corporate culture that you have in Muskoka Lakes, because it's been a very much a pleasure thus far. So ultimately, we want to produce to you a strategy that reflects the lived experience of residents, of businesses, and that council and administration feel confident using as a decision-making tool over the next 5 years. You can go to the next slide, please. So the process leads to a very concrete set of deliverables, a refreshed vision for economic development, that lines up with the township's broader strategic direction. It's really, really important to us that it doesn't sit on a shelf, that it connects to what you're already doing, that it's cognizant of the realities of your community, and that it can be actioned on. We will provide clear priority areas and strategic actions that are rooted in local data, again, in current economic realities that impact your community, and then what we hear through the engagement that we do. And I'll go a little bit further into the presentation on the types of engagement that you'll be seeing from us over the next couple of months. We will provide to you an implementation plan. It spells out timelines, who will lead various action items, who will support resourcing considerations as you move through budget processes, and then performance indicators so that you can track the progress and report it back to community or interested parties. All of our material is very accessible. We provide community-facing materials as well that shows the strategy in plain language so that it's easy for residents to understand and see the economic future of your community through the strategy as well. You can go to the next slide, please. I'm just going to very quickly walk you through the timeline so that you can see how this work is going to unfold and where today's conversation sort of fits in that timeline. We've begun initial conversations and initial setup of document review, data analysis, completing some research, getting some baseline indicators, and then finalizing our engagement strategy moving forward. So that includes developing the engagement materials, who do we need to be having conversations with, and reaching out to those folks to start engagement early on in the process. So that does include some one-on-one interviews with administration and with key community partners. In January and February is when we're going to move into some of the heavier on-the-ground engagement. We'll ensure that materials are circulated well in advance. We like to host sort of a mixed modality of engagement with businesses, residents, administrative staff, council, and the public. And then we also do offer both online and in-print options for surveys that we like to circulate for folks who aren't able to make it to in-person engagement. In February and March, we'll shift into drafting the strategy and we'll pull together what we've heard. So after every key engagement that we do, we develop a what we heard document that analyzes and quantifies the key themes from that community engagement. And that will blend into the strategy to help inform and ground things in the reality and the experiences of the people in your community. You'll see we'll refine the themes that have been emerging, and that will be produced into clear and actionable indicators. And then we'll check back with you through an interim report to council to make sure that we're on the right track. The document will be refined in April and May, and then we'll prepare the final strategy and implementation plan. We are scheduled and on track to finish by the end of May, and then we'll come back to you folks with the final presentation to council. You can go to the next slide, please. So where are we at right now? This is sort of a snapshot of where things stand at this moment in time. We are in the process, as I've mentioned, of completing the background review. So that's any current and past strategies that the township has that will inform the economic development strategy so that it's rooted in the larger strategic goals of and gives us sort of a solid base of evidence to work from. And as I mentioned earlier, we started the engagement setup, building the outreach lists, and planning the sequence of conversations and designing our interview guides and session formats. We have a biweekly meeting with James, with your economic development staff folks, that we can, so that we're making sure that we're consistently touching base and able to ask questions of one another and staying apprised of what's going on in the process. We are, from early review, we've started to see some working themes, some themes like business vitality, year-round economic activity, workforce stability, and housing services that support the economy, and then the role of tourism and investment readiness in various sectors and capacities. Again, these are working themes right now, and they'll be tested and refined through the community engagement and some of the ongoing research that we're doing. Often our research phase comes in two, where we start with initial research and then we go back and do another phase of research after our community conversations from anything that comes from that is pertinent to the development of the strategy. We can go to the next slide. So what does engagement look like? I think this is often one of the questions that we get at a council and administrative level. I mentioned before, we really do try to take a mixed methods approach, where we're engaging with people, where the community and informed strategies and processes that we take are really grounded in those conversations, and they're participatory. We want to ensure that the types of engagement that we do fits people's time, their comfort level, their access to technology, and accessibility needs. So we do, as I mentioned, one-on-one interviews. That is with members of council, any key community organizations, administrative staff, and then we will be planning an administrative staff focus group as well. And then we will also do focus groups with businesses, business support organizations, and sector groups, alongside a resident public open house. And as I mentioned, we also do a survey option for folks who can't join in person, and then we compile that into various what we heard documents. It's important for us to maintain great relationships with Indigenous community. We approach our Indigenous community outreach as relationship building, not a one-off event. Aisha guides that work so that it respects local protocols and existing relationships and broadens reach. So one of the questions that we have, or one of the specific, I suppose, requests that we have of council today is your help in encouraging participation, whether that's directing folks to the surveys, inviting them to the open houses, encouraging people to be engaged and know that we're listening, and that we will be reporting back on what we've heard and how that fits into the larger strategy. And through James as well, if there's, he's developed quite an extensive engagement list, but if there are any groups that you feel we absolutely need to speak to, then we can ensure that those folks are engaged in a meaningful way. You can go to the next slide. So again, I just wanted to underscore how important it is to us that we align this economic development strategy with larger township priorities. We really want to ensure that the action reflects the municipal capacity, your internal processes, the bylaws that exist, your official plan, and any available resources that you have in the community. We want to make sure that we're supporting a year-round economy. My family's from the region, from Parry Sound. I worked for RTO 12 for a long time. I'm very familiar with your community and the realities of what a seasonal economy looks like and how we can move towards year-round economic drivers, but still maintain the character of the community, and ensure that this strategy really does reflect your identity. We do look at some best practices from comparable municipalities, but we're not simply doing a plug and play from other communities. The product is very specific to your community. It'll provide a clear roadmap that council and administration and the community can follow. You can go to the next slide. Get to the closing. I just wanted to close by saying that we're genuinely looking forward to working alongside you on this project. It's very exciting. I love working in the region, and your community is beautiful. And the folks that I've encountered thus far have been just spectacular to work with. So it's started out as a wonderful process, and we're grateful to be a part of it. Over the next several months, you will see various people that I mentioned earlier in your community, on the phone, in conversations. So if you see us out and about in public, say hello, and we would love to have a conversation with all of you, and we're looking forward to our one-on-one interviews. And I wanted to underscore, like, your insight as council is very critical, both in the one-on-one interviews and in moments like today when I get an opportunity to introduce ourselves and the project and where and how you can tell us what success looks like from your perspective and who you want to make sure that we hear from. So again, I want to thank you for your time today and your trust in us in this process. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have or hear any early guidance that you would like to offer on engagement or areas of focus.
Thank you. Excuse me. Committee, do we have any questions or comments? Mayor Kelley.
Thank you, and through you to Ms. Knapp. On your great presentation, by the way. On your page that's headed "Where Are We Now?" you talk about a background review of current and past strategies. Mm-hmm. Will we see some sort of a scorecard, either internally or through you, to mark how we have performed in the 4 years leading up to this exercise against KPIs from whatever the last iteration of this was? I assume it was 2020. 22. I'm just curious to know, will we sort of start by understanding how we have done on last year's version or last version before we move on to the next?
That's a great question. Thank you. Through you. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
What we like to do is sort of give an overview of a 2020 strategy is very interesting. Because of the realities of what happened in the world in 2020, 2021. So we always sort of take that lens of strategies that were developed sort of in a very either economically, socially, health, turbulent time. So we always want to give a very unbiased review of those strategies and understanding that the realities of those plans may have been impacted. So we do try to say these areas have been completed. These areas need to be refined as you move forward, but also grounding that sort of in the reality of understanding the COVID landscape, the labor shortage in the hospitality sector, so that we can quantify if there are items that haven't been completed at that time, any mitigating factors, and that could go down to changing staff or administration changes. So we do try to say, and then sometimes some of the KPIs just aren't relevant to the community anymore, and then we'll ground that in this was a great idea potentially in 2020. However, we think that knowing the current landscape will move forward in a different way. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. Committee, are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Bosenworth?
Thank you. This may be to Mr. Cox. Community engagement is the basic foundation of this work, I think, from what I've heard, and I think that's really important. I'm just interested in knowing how do we engage the community, because sometimes it's difficult. We ask our community for engagement many times, and how do we get that? And is there any area that we focus on more than the other?
Okay, Mr. Cox.
Through you, Madam Chair. So That's a very good point. As Kyra mentioned in her presentation, the consultation, particularly on the economic development strategy, involves a lot of one-on-one conversations with the business community, with groups like the Chamber of Commerce, with other organizations that are active in the economic development sphere. So over the past month or so, I've been working with Kyra to put together a list of stakeholders and other groups that we are going to try to directly engage, do a direct reach out to them rather than simply relying on the public surveys and the other general items that we have. However, again, as Kyra mentioned in her presentation, if there are any specific groups that committee feels that need to be included, please pass that information along to me, and we'll make sure that we're reaching out to them directly.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. So one of the issues we have, to the nut we've got to crack, is that economic development during the wintertime is, other than sledding, is pretty scarce. So I encourage you and the consultant to come back with big ideas that say, how can we do something to have year-round employment in our township?
Mm-hmm.
So they can really out of the box, like something like the asset management thing program. So we're going to build a bridge to bypass Port Carling, which is, let's really have that out of the box thinking. We're not going to, may never do that, but I think this is time that is needed.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Burry?
Thank you, and through you. I'm not sure how many people have seen, but the provincial government has very recently, within the last 2 days, done something that should be transformational to our township along the way, with several of the Indigenous groups to build a transmission line, hydro transmission line from Barrie up through to Sudbury, and then obviously up to the Ring of Fire. You know, we have lots of space for things like data centers, and I'd really like for our people to start thinking about how we engage with other groups outside of our own little insular group. I didn't mean that to be an insult. I just mean that there are other groups, and it's a big bad world out there. One of our constituents will be the CEO of the group that's leading the transmission line. Well qualified for it, and is dealing with it. It's not public yet, so I can't leave that. But we will have very strong ties into. There's going to be a question in here, because I'm just going to say to James, like, what are you going to do about it?
I was laughing simply because you said it's not public, and I said, well, it is now.
No,
We're
it's
in a
not.
public forum.
I haven't used his name,
Okay.
but it certainly can be public that a constituent of the Township of Muskoka Lakes will be helping to lead this charge. And I think that, you know, that this is a very big deal for the province. We need more power. The transmission, we've got a gateway to come through. This is really good news for the province, and we're right in the middle of it. So if we're talking about economic development, this is on topic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's not think about a bridge around Port Carling. Let's think about building some really interesting things that would bring some very well-paid jobs to the township.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
Can I address that, your right?
Of course. Yes. Yes.
I wanted to, I'm glad that you brought that up. I just wanted to give you a little bit more background into the folks that work at KLB as well. So my background's not only municipal economic development, but I also work directly for a First Nation, and had gone through that process in my role as economic development officer there of some equity partnership negotiations for transmission lines and various other energy related infrastructure. from a First Nations standpoint. So I'm quite familiar with that process. And we have somebody, it's not quite public yet, but we've brought a new staff person on who's a planner and has directly engaged with a number of those projects as well. So we'll certainly take a look at that broader landscape opportunities that we know are coming through and make sure that we're grounding your future in some of those things. And we're quite familiar with the process. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, with that, I just a quick question, two actually comments. The first is the list of groups of that you have compiled. Is that something that committee would have access to be able to either add to outside of this forum? Okay, thank you. Which leads really to the second, and I'm actually quite glad Councillor Burry brought that idea up as well, because I sense that we would go back to the current list of everybody who's currently either in business or has a vested interest or is part of the building of this economy. But really what Councillor Burry is saying, it should really incorporate the new ideas as well, the broader. So just hoping that this plan is able to address both of those things. Okay, thank you.
I'll volunteer to be interviewed because I may have a few ideas.
I suspect you can be the first to be interviewed. How about that? Put your name in the list. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. We're looking forward to that. Thanks very much for bringing this forward today, Mr. Cox. And thanks very much for coming today on Zoom. And we look forward to seeing all sorts of interesting ideas and things coming through this project.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Great. We are now moving on to, what am I moving on to? 8A. Oh, welcome. Fantastic. The Freedom of Information and Report. Welcome, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Chair Mazan and committee. Before you today is the proposed Freedom of Information and Routine Disclosure Policy. This policy is intended to formalize a process that is largely already occurring at the township. For example, we already publish agendas, minutes, bylaws, policies onto our website and onto the Document Center for active dissemination. This is just providing some more parameters for staff and thinking of things like building permit applications, planning applications, other documents that we don't actively disseminate at this point. So starting on page 6 of the proposed policy is a complete list of the records we are intending to make available to the public either by direct request or through posting on our website. With that said, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you very much. Committee, I do have a resolution, but I will ask at this, if there's questions. I see Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you.
Questions.
Thank you through you, Chair, to presenter. So I'm wondering what to the extent of, we use the words records, and I've been through this thing about 4 times. The words records, I wonder if somebody, if she could speak to the enormity or the parameters around what constitutes a township record. For example, when you and I, for example, Chair, communicate on the exchange system back and forth to the Q&A period, is that something that becomes a matter of a township record? I guess is phone records.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So a bit of a loaded question there. For yeah, if we were to receive a Freedom of Information request and they asked for your correspondence with the chair, we would be going through the email servers and looking for that. We cannot pull cell phone records per se. That has to be done by a court order. So yeah, and that would be just through the Freedom of Information request. That's not the intention of this policy today.
Okay. Questions?
No.
Question? Councillor Bosenworth?
Yes. The question is, so this is directed to a number of record types. What policy do we have that deals with information that's not in this record type?
That would go back to MFIPA, so Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy. So if it's not on this list, then you're directed through the other avenue through MFIPA. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let me read the resolution and then Councillor Burry, I'll turn to you. Moved by Councillor Bosenworth, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that Freedom of Information and Routine Disclosure Policy C-LS-21 as attached as Appendix 1 to Staff Report LS-2025-043 be adopted. Councillor Burry?
Thank you. Through you, maybe a little tangential, but this morning before committee started, we were talking a little bit about security and internet security and why, as council members, we use a public domain Wi-Fi as opposed to staff that uses a private. And there's some security around that, and much of it is associated with our personal computing devices. And so maybe it's something that we should ask staff to think about. Should the other piece is that freedom of information is within the confines of the township, all of our email, not necessarily personal email. But when you start to concatenate the information of the Exchange server and Exchange pieces that we have with our township email on the same machine as personal, it gets blurry. So maybe one of the things we want to look at is having councillors having a separate and distinct piece of hardware that can be configured. So for two reasons. One, to ensure that the freedom of information, so that records is actually associated with just the records of the public piece. But the other piece is that we then could configure those pieces of hardware to be compliant with some of the SOC legislation that's around, so that we ensure that, so our technical people are actually making sure that our equipment, the piece of equipment that we bring into the council chamber, is secure, and that there's no ways of bridging. So I think I'm taking it up a level, surprise, and making it a bigger piece, but it's all within the records management and the freedom of information, which I applaud that the council and staff are taking that on. But maybe we should take a look. Yes, there's probably a financial implication of us either having to have an iPad or a computer that is dedicated to township work. But I can tell you in my corporate world, a couple of my boards have insisted that I have a PC just for that work, so that there's no breach, and that the company can then be compliant with much of the legislation around confidentiality because of the work that those companies are doing with other customers. Okay. So I think, it's up a level, but something for staff to think about in relation to how we deal with public information.
Okay. So just a reminder that we have in front of us this policy. This is an idea of perhaps
it's coming out of the policy. So okay. The policy is great.
Okay.
It's a start.
Okay. Councillor Roberts?
Thank you. Maybe you should read the resolution because we're really into comments.
I did read the resolution.
You did? Then I was asleep. Can you reread it? No.
Would you like me to?
Did I say that out loud?
Would you like me to reread it?
No.
Okay. So this is to do with the policy that's embedded in the report. And so I want to see if there's any other questions or comments on that particular policy. Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Cochran. Okay. Oh, welcome as well. Sorry, you're waiting patiently. Welcome.
Oops. Yes, I'm well known for my patience.
Yes.
Good morning, Chair Mazan and committee. Nice to see you all today. I'm here to provide a status report on the progress made on the goals and objectives of the 2024-25 Accessibility Plan and to seek your endorsement of same. I'm pleased to report that the Township has completed or delivered on an ongoing basis all but one of the 36 action items. This is a credit not only to Council and staff, but to the community as a whole, who have supported these initiatives with their feedback, cooperation, volunteer efforts, and taxes. Moving forward, staff will develop an accessibility plan to encompass 2026 to 2030. We already have a strong foundation on which to build this plan. The TML website houses 17 different plans and strategies that the Township has recently undertaken, such as the Strategic Plan, the Transportation Master Plan, Community Improvement Plan, Asset Management Plan, Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and the Communication Strategy. All have been conducted in part with the removal of barriers and inclusivity in mind. The public has had numerous opportunities to contribute to these plans, and the outcomes reflect their priorities. Lastly, the municipal election is coming. The Township, as is legally required, will have an election accessibility plan. The clerk and I are investigating opportunities to enhance this plan and further reduce barriers to participate in the election process. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Again, I have a resolution, but I will ask, are there any questions? Okay, I will read the resolution. Moved by Councillor McIntyre, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that committee endorse the 2024-2025 Annual Accessibility Status Report as attached as Appendix 1 to Report LS-2025-44. And I will open up for any comments at this point. Councillor Nishikawa.
To you, I suppose is the better way to say this. This committee had asked about having no parking put through Bala, especially in the area of the Bala Bay Inn and the Pearl Restaurant, where parking is forcing people to walk in the middle of the highway, much like Port Carling, which I don't see any plan to this date. And that really is distressing to me, because watching a woman in a stroller trying to push up the hill in the middle of the highway, knowing that people are coming down that hill very quickly or could, it just distresses me. And I've watched it for years and years. And I don't see this in the plan, but I'm wondering if in fact, when we did put something through, when is that going to happen? We voted on this a few months ago now.
I think the commenter is, will that thinking be incorporated in the next plan? I don't know.
Well, sorry.
There's two.
Do you want me to read?
Okay, you know what, CAO Pink, I think is going to help out here.
Thank you and good morning, committee. I do recall the request. I believe council did make a request of the district of Muskoka being 169 for a no parking prohibition along that stretch. Staff would please to seek an update from them on the status of that request, and we can report back to committee.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Nishikawa.
To you, I am. What I was told at district was the in-town activities are the responsibility of the Township of Muskoka Lakes. So if there's, I think it's really not great for our communities at all if the two can't come together, because we're not doing any favors to our tax-paying citizens. And I'm very concerned about that.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Kelley, did you?
Thank you, and through you and to Councillor Nishikawa. I'm curious to know who told you that.
Mr. Steele.
And did we push back on it? I hope we're.
That's not my place to push back.
Okay.
So just as a reminder, not to have a conversation. Just
sorry, through you.
Through me.
Yeah.
It feels like this is one of those opportunities that if CAO Pink, you can report back to us, that would be helpful. Any other questions or comments on the report before us? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. Okay, who is up next? Oh, Director Donaldson. It's like a surprise for me today. Who's coming up next?
Good morning, committee. So the purpose of this report is just to provide an overview of Bill 72, the Buy Ontario Act, and to outline its potential implications for municipal procurement. So the province has introduced this bill with a new creates a new framework that prioritizes Ontario-made goods and services across the broader public sector. And while the bill itself does not establish specific purchasing rules, it gives the government the authority to issue directives in the future that could restrict who the municipality may purchase from based on the vendor's location or the origin of the goods. If it's enacted, it would replace the Building Ontario Business Initiative Act that is currently in place, but not directly applicable to municipalities. The legislation would apply to us and any group purchasing organizations that we rely on. It would be mandatory compliance should a directive come forward. And the bill includes enforcement tools such as withholding provincial payments or conducting compliance reviews with regards to having full access to our records. And at the same time, the province intends to develop supplier lists to help identify vendors that would qualify under this act. For context, we recently updated our procurement policy. Our policy focuses on trade agreement compliance, but does not include any local preferences, local vendor preference requirements. So if this bill passed, and I believe it passed bill third reading earlier this week, and the directives are issued, then staff would be responsible for integrating those requirements into our current procurement criteria and our vendor selection process. Contract award authority is currently delegated to staff where those procurements are within budget. So we would need to ensure that those procurement rules are followed, including ensuring that our group purchasing partners are online. The staff will be forwarding periodic information to committee with regard to contract awards, and this report was provided for information, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. And as noted, there isn't a resolution. This is just for information. So questions, comments at this point. Councillor Bosenworth.
Thank you. Director Donaldson, in reality, how much will this impact us? My gut feel would be is that most of the procurement we do is quite local, except for maybe some of our specialized equipment. So that's the question.
So through you, Chair, so I believe that would be an accurate assessment. I don't have the exact information with regard to all of our procurement, but we do a fair bit of local procurement already. It would be a lot of our larger ticket items that perhaps may not be available locally that we have to go outside and perhaps as far as the US in some cases to get that those products.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much for bringing that forward to us today. I appreciated that. Committee, I'd like to take a break at this point because we still have a couple of more reports, 15 minutes, so that will take us back to 10:25. Is that right? Yeah, 10:25. Thank you. Okay, good morning. Thank you. We had a few extra minutes there to gather ourselves together. At this point, we will open up the floor to items 9A, which is the discussion on the Arena Action Plan. Welcome to the podium, Mr. Moore.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good morning, committee. Today's report is the next step in the Arena Action Plan that we established and entered down this past spring. Committee will recall in September, we discussed part 1 of the Planning for the Future document, which provided committee with a summary of all the background information we've collected to date and an overview of the shortlisted options. From that meeting, committee elected to proceed with evaluating 2 options further, how those 2 options would look financially and how they would roll out in an implementation strategy. With that, staff have prepared part 2 of the Planning for the Future document, which outlines just those. Committee will recall the first option is to renovate both arenas. With that, staff evaluated the current conditions of each. As such, you can see within the implementation plan, staff would propose completing the required works and upgrades to each facility over a phased approach, beginning with the Port Carling Arena, as it is in worse condition than the current Bala Arena. With it, we would intend to do any work or renovations within 2 phases in an effort to not lose any winter seasons. So the work to replace the roof and upgrade the floor and other building upgrades would ideally occur in the off season. The second option was to renovate one arena and consider repurposing the other. With that, staff provided an overview of that implementation plan with a goal of beginning renovation work to the selected arena along the same time frame as option 1 and beginning community consultation regarding the other facility fairly quickly as well to gather input and feedback from the community on potential reuses. Of course, with that option, we ultimately could end up with a decision to also renovate that arena. But consideration would be given to work with the community, provide background information, and consider other options with the properties as well. Upon reviewing both those, staff came to a conclusion of a hybrid approach to help move the process along. As both options recommend renovating one arena, we are recommending that we proceed with at least that step today in selecting an arena that can allow us to begin preparing for throughout 2026. Throughout this whole process and through the various plans and strategies, we've always included both the arenas together, which I think has perhaps delayed some of the work or progress. And this hybrid approach, I think, allows us to get moving on at least one of them and then provide some further community consultation on the other. And then ultimately being able to make a decision with that facility as well. So with that, Chair, staff are available for any questions today. And yes, I think that's about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Committee, there is a resolution, but I would like to open it up for questions first, and then I will read the resolution. So are there any questions? Councillor Nishikawa.
Sorry, through you or to you, I guess. Just, it's a minor one, but it's noted that there's no concession in Bala, but there's always been a concession in Bala. And I'm not sure why we frame things like that, but.
Mr. Moore?
I'm trying to weigh the 2.
Yeah, Mr. Moore, is there?
Perhaps maybe some clarity in what that concession entails. Like, are we just to help with that a little bit?
It notes that essentially both arenas are identical, except for the concession area. And I just think we should equal it up because there is a concession area in both arenas.
Okay. Is there a concession area in the Bala Arena?
Yes.
Okay.
Like a snack bar.
I think that must be, I think that's the reference. So I think embedded in the
Yes,
report
there
is
is.
just that there, okay,
Yes.
just, thank you. No, that was a good note. Thank you, Councillor Nishikawa. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I will read the resolution. And we can have a conversation. Moved by Councillor Bosenworth, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that the Muskoka Lakes Arenas Planning for the Future Part 2 document attached as Appendix 3 in Staff Report OPS-2025-055 be received. And that committee recommend that staff proceed with renovation of the, and it's blank, arena, and community consultation surrounding potential alternative uses of the blank arena as identified in Staff Report OPS-2025-055 and report back to committee with the results. And that an additional $300,000 be added to the 2026 capital budget from the Building and Facilities Reserve Fund, $200,000, and the Parkland Dedication Reserve Fund, $100,000, to fund the project design phase of the first renovation. So obviously with the two blanks in there, and I know that within the report, there is some direction or recommendation from staff. I think it's incumbent upon our group just to fill in the blanks of the two areas of the arenas, so we can, as nicely noted, continue to move these projects forward. So with that, I will open up to comments. Councillor Zavitz.
Well, thank you. And through you, I'm happy to start this salvo off. And I guess to your point, there'll be much discussion here and now on this issue. So I want to say first that I think the staff has done an incredible job of setting the table, if you will. Big, heavy issue. And of course, there's lots of dynamics. Port Carling, Bala. And I think they've done a really good job. Corey, you guys have done a really good job of getting all of this information right here in front of everyone. I hope that the people that are watching today, have perused these documents and absorbed the information in them, because, this is pretty serious stuff. And, we're about to move forward. I can say that in our discussions, Chair, that I can say that I am, initially I was, option number one, renovate both arenas in a phased approach. But I do like the hybrid piece where we could move ahead, as the resolution has indicated, we could move ahead with Port Carling first. And I think there's quite a caveat as it relates to Bala. And it relates very specifically to what I call the gathering place on Maple Street, where we have a community center, a library, an arena, and a Legion. And of course, considerable public township parking as well. So in that regard, what I would suggest, and at a later date today in this discussion this morning, that I would recommend a slight revision to the second paragraph in the motion. And I'll certainly defer to my friends here on that one. But I would suggest that we should probably, though, if we're going to set Bala aside while we focus, if you will, initially on Port Carling, that we say something to the effect that potential uses of the Bala arena be deferred in the short term to allow potential development in close proximity to unfold. There is a potential housing project right next door, which this facility could definitely benefit. And the people in close proximity to Bala could enjoy, possibly a recreation center, more focus on a multitude or a variety of uses, whether it's a walking track, yoga, whatever people might do that the 130 units occupy, plus, of course, the 70 people or 70 units coming on the other side of Bala as well. So I know that's a bit forward thinking, but I think the language is very important here. I'm not suggesting we just set aside Bala and let's see what happens later. I think we should be very specific in our language to acknowledge that that there is the potential of a development, a housing development being established essentially right next door, and that could have an impact. It should have, I think it should have an impact on this facility. If that were to not occur, if that building did not happen, if that's not to happen, then I would be back to my original thought on like for like in terms of Bala being an arena with ice. And so that, you know, I'm not sure how we're going to phrase that, but that certainly would be my intent. Thank you.
Okay. So I can see staff are taking notes. I want to hear from other members of committee, and then we'll come back if there's any response, if that's okay. I think it's just, let's hear from everybody first. Councillor Nishikawa.
Through you to you, I didn't understand Councillor Zavitz, how he wants to change the motion. I didn't. I tried to follow, but I didn't. And in fact, I guess my other question would be: does Councillor Zavitz have an understanding of when the housing development will happen at the Legion?
Okay, Councillor Zavitz, did you want to comment?
Yeah, thank you, and through you, and certainly, I believe it's at a high level. But what I think that we, as a result of discussions today, this morning, if there is enough interest, well, then we would fashion the final wording. But I do think it's very important, I say again, that everyone is clear in this resolution that Bala is not being set aside, pushed away, not being paid attention to. There's a very serious reason why Bala is being, if you will, deferred or put on hold while some other things are the potential of happening. And to Councillor Nishikawa's question, I have no more knowledge than she might see and hear out on the public domain, whether it's from an MP, an MPP, the mayor, whomever, on the issues in the media. So that's all I would be able to say. Maybe someone else can provide more information.
So I just want to come back to, I think, the hybrid approach, and I will look to staff to make sure. I think they're listening right now to see if there's a need. I think that it's been heard, the comment. I think I'm going back to the report, and I do see that part of the recommendation of the hybrid approach includes, specifically in Bala, this may include discussions with the neighboring property currently proposed to go under redevelopment. So maybe I can look to staff to say, do you feel that the resolution could be amended or modified to be more specific, that you know, and just hold on to the thought as we go through this. But I think that's, you know, I think the intention in behind this hybrid approach has been to exactly address what Councillor Zavitz is identifying, is that there's a lot of interesting things in the discussions in that whole area. So probably wise just to pause, give ourselves time to understand all the information and facts of the moving pieces, and then engage with the community appropriately. But I'll hold that. I see you nodding your head, Councillor Zavitz. I'm just letting you know, Mr. Moore is nodding his head. So we will come back to your comments. Let me just hear from others and sitting on the table too. Councillor Roberts, did you have your hand up? Okay, and then Councillor Boseworth.
Thank you very much, and through you, Chair. I think I understand where Councillor Zavitz is coming from. We are doing, or we're proposing that we do Port Carling because there's an immediate need that we need to get on. And that we're going to then, once we get this started, we'll go back and look at Bala. And I would look to maybe Mr. Moore. So assume we decide on proceeding immediately with Port Carling because of the need that is there. What would you think it would look like to the Bala community and how we would evolve, and we'll call it the campus of that area in relationship to the development that we could gain public input and have a really good plan going forward?
Yes, through you, Chair. I think with the hybrid approach, we see it just as that. We're obviously aware of some ongoing discussions regarding development in Bala and in neighboring properties. And we think those are important factors to consider when making a decision such as this. And that's why we thought, perhaps the hybrid approach is best. Start perhaps with the Port Carling Arena, and then as we can continue community consultation and discussions with kind of the properties in the area in Bala before making a conclusion and a final decision on the Bala Arena. There's certainly lots to undertake there. I think to this point, a lot of the community consultation has been with specific stakeholder groups, online surveys, that type of engagement. I think this would allow us the opportunity for more in-person style engagement opportunities, provide all the background information that we have currently, a look at what the future could hold and potential costs surrounding those options. And I think it could all align pretty well timing wise with what else is going on in that area, and allowing us to continue progress on the Port Carling Arena. Yeah.
Just for clarity, it sounds like, it feels like this allows for two almost simultaneous processes now, whereas before it was one, and I think you noted that in your comments, that we've been kind of lumping all arena into one. But the big decision that was made previously is that we don't want that one bigger center. We want to keep things more in tune with the character of this place. So that allows for us now to separate these two, like the campuses. So there would be two separate processes. One is going to be, or it being recommended here is, let's address what needs to happen on Port Carling campus, specific to the arena, but potentially other things. And now let's have a really good look at Bala in that area. Is that right? So two parallel processes happening at the same time, but now separated.
Yes, that's correct.
Great.
That's exactly, yes,
Okay.
how we envision it. Yes.
Okay. Councillor Bosenworth and then Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. First, it's just a general comment. Maybe perhaps staff could address it when we come back next time. And that is, this is I think the first time that I've heard that there's a potential development right beside, a residential development right beside the arena in Bala. And the reports are, for the most part, talks about what has happened and what is happening, usage and things like that. It does address population growth, but to me, it would be useful to say, what are the known potential residential developments that are happening in both communities? We know we have one. Do we call it Tower Hill? That has, I forget, but it's measured in the hundreds of units. We have a proposal that's active in Bala beside the Bala Bay Hotel. We have another potential one here. I think that's just useful information. We're making a decision to make some investment that will last at least 50 years. So that sort of forward thinking, it would just make me feel better about, oh yeah, I'd forgotten. I thought about Tower Hill. I remember, of course, what's going on right next to the hotel, but I wasn't aware there was any other potentially, adding significant number of families. So that's great news. But here's my thoughts. With respect to Port Carling, I think at the moment we're talking like for like. The studies that we got and the information we got from our community was there are some other things that are very important that we could add to it other than an arena that allows for ice activities in the winter and sports courts activities in the summer. And I don't want to lose sight of the fact that, we could enhance what's going on in Port Carling as well. And we're going to spend $300,000 and we're on the consultant, and it looks like a cap of around $5 million that's currently in our capital plan for Port Carling. I want us to have some idea of what could be added for what cost. Is it a walking lane? Is it some exercise rooms? Whatever the feedback or with things we think might be useful, and bring a little more regular activity into Port Carling. Tied with that, of course, is I think we need to have a full understanding of our how we're going to finance our 200 million over the next 10 years, including what is, I think, a total of 10.5 million for the two arenas, and how, if we wanted to spend more than that kind of money in the two towns rather, what levers might be pulled to make it happen. So if we come back and say, yeah, let's just fixing up the arenas is 5 million, but we want to add another 2.5 or 3 million to make the buildings even more functional, what do we have to kick down the road to make that happen? And so, I think that makes for a very fulsome discussion. That would be my comment. So first one is, let's make sure that we are not closing the door to further enhancements at particularly Port Carling, because that's one we're saying we're going to do first. Let's not just focus on like for like, because I think we need to do something more for our constituents, at least have the option in front of us.
Thank you. And did you have a comment, Mr. Moore? Or?
No, music to staff's ears.
Okay.
I think that's how we envision 2026 as dedicated to that planning, that understanding, going through all those discussions and steps and stages before we make a final kind of commitment moving forward in 2027. Yes.
Councillor Burry?
Thank you. Through you, maybe just building on Councillor Bosemore's points. I've had about 20 years of experience with a small private school in Toronto that is in many ways like our community, fiscally constrained. The campus is small and constrained. And we put together a plan, a fair bit of time ago and the driving factor was, we're at a small campus. Everything we're going to do to the best of our capability. So we might not do everything, but what we do, we're going to make it the best. And so it's been a multi-year project that has been transformational to the college and for the boys' educational experience. And I think that we could take some of the lessons learned there and bring them here, so that as we look at each one of the arenas, we don't say we're just going to put a new roof on, or we're just going to put a wall on it. Maybe there's a way of using the existing structure that's there, but doing it in a transformational way. One of the things that I found really interesting about what the college did is they took basically a basement, well, not a basement, but it was on a floor level room that had no windows. And they were able to, with the vision of a very forward-thinking architect that embraces this kind of space, change it into a student room with windows. And I was able to go in with a couple of other older alumni, or alumni that had graduated a long time ago. And one of them basically looked at me and said, "Where the hell are we?" Because it was that transformational. And I think that we have that kind of opportunity to be able to be thoughtful about what we do and purposeful, and to embrace that what we do, we're going to do really, really well. So if we've abandoned a single spot with double pads and all of the other things because we can't afford it and we don't need it. So what we do have, we can afford, but how do we go about doing it in a multi-year thoughtful way? And we've had the luxury of having staff bring to us an asset management plan. We've got a lot of the pieces in place. So now I think we can transform that and give to staff we're going to figure out how to pay for this over a period of time, but don't just bring us the same box.
I see Mr. Moore smiling. I think he might like what you're saying.
Mr. Moore did not ask me to say any of these things, nor did nor did Jen or Nick. And I think we can plan it and do it properly, and maybe embrace some of those other pieces. Over time, we can have both. We can do it all if time is our friend here. And I think that's what we have to embrace, that we're not going to be able to do it perfectly overnight. So let's take some time in doing it. And I think that goes back to the CAO office, where it's kind of crawl and then walk and then run. So let's embrace that as a council and see if we can't get the public and constituents to understand we're on the path, but it's a journey. We're not going to get there today. So it's going to take us some time, but what we do, we have to do with conviction and we have to do it right.
Yep. Councillor Zavitz and then Councillor Roberts. I see both of you have your hands up again. Oh, no, you know what? I apologize. No, are you sure? Okay. Okay, that's fine. Councillor Zavitz and then Councillor Roberts.
Well, thank you, and through you. And I just wanted to say I'm certainly in lockstep with both of the councillors who have just spoken. I think we do need to be, very thoughtful and certainly methodical. This is why I said at the beginning, I do think it's important. I think it's okay to say, and I'm from Ward A, that we could focus on Port Carling in terms of, the arena and focus on that, get that thing going. At the same time, not forgetting about Bala, but I'm saying I think that the defer piece on Bala, until we get a much better handle on the town and what's going to happen in terms of housing. Are we going to have a population bubble? Are we going to have needs that we're not aware of now? I think to what Councillor Burry has said, that thoughtful consideration is vital. And so I don't want to rush ahead. I don't want to be perceived to not wanting things for Bala, but I certainly think the best thing for Bala right now is a thoughtful pause while we proceed with Port Carling.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo both what Councillor Bosenworth and Councillor Berry said, is this has got to be a puzzle. And any money that we're spending or going to spend to fix up the arena or what's necessary must be like a Lego, that we're not going to throw that investment away, that it can link into something else. So.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands at this point. I think we just need a few minutes. I think what I have a question, and I do see staff has been kind of operating here, so I feel like I need 5 or 10 minutes with staff, just to make sure that we have captured the essence of the discussion here in a resolution. Because I think one of the things, well, that I could see in this is that I got quite excited actually about what the possibilities could be in Bala. And maybe a bit like Councillor Bosenworth, the only thing that made me pause was to say, well, we don't want to then just be doing like for like in Port Carling, which is an area that everybody keeps talking about, needs some revitalization and new energy and everything else in our enthusiasm to making a decision today. So finding the right language to say, let's make sure we get it right on both campuses now and make sure that this resolution reflects the discussion that we're having here today, to have a process to allow for that. Because that's essentially what we're doing today, I think, is creating the process for each campus with some guiding principles. So with that committee, I'm going to ask if we could just take a 10-minute break to allow for staff to make sure that they're comfortable with this is an important decision. It's the end of the year. It's Christmas. Let's take 10 minutes. We'll come back. And then we will read a new resolution and hopefully I've captured everything we've just talked about. Okay, so 10 minutes that will get us back here at, oh my goodness. What time does that take us to? 10 after 11. We will resume. Thank you. Okay, committee. Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence there. We really wanted to make sure that this captures the essence of today's discussion, and from a staff perspective, that they have a clear understanding as to how to proceed. And I'm going to do my best, but I'll lean on our clerk to make sure I'm now handling this amended resolution appropriately. So the amended resolution that I will read in a moment. Pardon me? The amendment. See, even there, thank you. The amendment, as I will read in just a moment, includes the first paragraph, and then it changes the second paragraph, and then we have the third paragraph, and then we had some addition at the end. So I'm going to read through it, and then if there's any questions or comments, I will probably direct you to Crystal or Director Peroshi. Okay, moved by Councillor Zavitz, seconded by Councillor Bosenworth. Be it resolved that the resolution be amended to strike out the second paragraph and replace it with the following. And that committee recommend that staff proceed with renovation of the Port Carling Arena as identified in staff report OPS-2025-055 and proceeding direction, and that the following be included at the end of the resolution. And that staff be directed to report back to committee on the Port Carling Arena and campus renovation design and any potential enhancements for approval prior to procuring the project. And that staff be directed to report back at a later date on potential alternative uses or rehabilitation of the Bala Arena, inclusive of 1, robust community consultation, 2, potential partnership discussions with the adjacent property owners, and 3, analysis of additional Township and Muskoka Lakes arena usage statistics and trends. So are there any questions or comments? I see a thumbs up from Councillor Zavitz. Councillor Bosenworth, did you have a comment?
Yes, it implies that the potential development sorry, let me just rethink this. The resolution implies that we're only going to look at what are the residential development opportunities that are happening in Bala. I would just like to understand what they're happening in Port Carling. Like, I know we have one potentially large development. You know, who knows if it's ever going to get built, but it's there and it's a large number. And I would just like to understand that as well.
Okay. Do you feel like that needs to be in the resolution, or could we?
Thank you. Through you, I believe it is. So the second clause specifically refers with respect to the Bala Arena discussions with the adjacent property owner that would do the development.
Yeah.
The third clause speaks to not just arena usage statistics, but I take that to mean general demographic trends. So we can look at, as you mentioned, larger development proposals in those communities and how that may be impacting the needs or the demands in Bala.
Yep, as long as it just covers both towns.
Okay. Councillor Edwards?
Just for clarification, you're going out to the community of Bala, not just the adjacent property owner?
Correct. It says here,
Okay, that's what I
robust
thought.
community consultation. Yes.
Because I just didn't want to talk to one property owner and find out the rest of the community wants something else.
Right. Yeah. Councillor Nishikawa and then Councillor Bosenworth.
I'll follow up through you to what Councillor Edwards said. And of course, the community users of the Bala Arena aren't limited to Bala. They come from Walker's Point, they come from Torrance, they come from, but I'm just saying, I don't know how you're going to, this is just not a Bala central issue, nor a Port Carling central issue, because many people have to travel an hour to get to an arena. So I just didn't want those people left out.
Okay. Councillor Bosenworth?
Could you read this paragraph about Port Carling again? The clause about Port Carling?
The second portion?
I think so, yes.
And that staff be directed to report back to committee on the Port Carling Arena and campus renovation design and any potential enhancements for approval prior to procuring the project.
So just to be clear, so the potential for enhancements means not just looking at like for like.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I've read the resolution. Any other questions or comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. And then I say all in favor of the main motion as amended. Thank you. That carries. You would imagine by now I know those words, but for whatever reason, I have them in the block. Thank you. Mr. Moore, before you step away from the podium, as somebody who has been sitting around this table for quite a long period of time and having a lot of these kinds of discussions, I have to tell you personally, I'm feeling like this is a Christmas gift because how you have come forward with an approach to help our communities move forward, the thought that you've put into this, you and your team, I'm just looking at you directly, the leadership that you are showing and helping guide us towards not just what is here today, but hopefully in 50 years, when there's a whole new group of people here, that we've developed communities that attract young families and that we all feel really proud of. So your ongoing leadership has just, I can't leave today without you knowing and feeling, at least from me, that this is a huge step in the right direction. So thank you. Thanks for your timeless efforts, and this will be a fun 2026. All right. Take care. Okay. Oh, just before you get started, if we could just pause for one moment just to allow for Mayor Kelley to come back up.
Mayor likes to have board.
Okay, welcome back. And we are now
Hey, it was a really good conversation.
not a competition. Okay, we are now moving on to item 9B.
Morning, committee, and through you, before committee this morning is a report about engine replacement. There's been a boat engine failure for the Township of Muskoka Lakes that was recently discovered when we were moving the boat from its current moored position up to Gordon Bay Marina for the season. The boat, for lack of a better term, my people described it as grenaded halfway across the water. Before committee is an ask to amend the current budget that committee just approved and include a new fireboat engine replacement project as per the details in this staff report. And also that we are directed to postpone project gear racks and project vehicle rescue tool to fund this replacement of the boat engine repair. Boat engine replacement. In the report, there is an analysis of repair versus replacement, and I now stand ready for questions.
Okay, thank you. Committee, I do have a resolution. So at this point, if there are questions, Mayor Kelley.
Thank you very much. And through you, I have two. Number one, there's some discussion in the report about the certification or the level of certification for this particular vessel. And it speaks to its ability to pump water. That water pump is not run off. I mean, it's a question. Is that water pumped from the actual outboard motor that's hanging on it, or does it have a separate auxiliary engine to run the pump?
Through you to committee, there's an actual separate pump that runs the water systems of all of our fireboats. There is only one fireboat that we had that shared that usefulness, and it is soon going to be replaced.
And thank you. Through you for a second question. What the heck was it? No, it's a comment. Never mind.
Any more questions? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor Zabitz. Be it resolved that committee recommend that council approve an amendment to the 2026 capital budget to include the Footsbay Fireboat Engine Replacement Project as per details in staff report ES-2025-023, and that staff be directed to postpone project 26008 to gear racks and project 26022 vehicle rescue tool to fund the fireboat engine replacement project in 2026. Any other questions or comments? Mayor Kelley.
Thank you. And through you, and just one, a big issue for me is a commitment from whoever you're working with, and I don't need to know who it is, that they can get the thing turned around, get the motor supplied and hung and sea trialed before you need it next spring. There's a shortage of marine mechanics, and there's a shortage of certain types of marine product as well. So I'm just curious to know if we got some kind of commitment for a turnaround.
Okay.
Through you to committee. The reason that this is before you is because we were endeavoring to try to meet those timelines. Number one, and number two, there's an actual active quote from one vendor, but as per our procurement guidelines, we will be seeking quotes from other vendors just to ensure that that happens. And in that process of seeking those quotes, we will be asking that the timelines be very rigidly adhered to so that this boat can come back into service should committee approve the move.
Thank you. So I've read the resolution. Seeing no hands, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. So I don't have anything under unfinished business. So I will move along now to new business. And under the district, are there any updates or questions? Okay, seeing no hands. I will now move on to community events. Are there any community events upcoming that we want to talk about? Mary Ellen? Or sorry, Councillor McIntyre and then Councillor Roberts.
There's the library, Port Carling Library is having a Christmas event 4 to 6 on Thursday after planning committee, so we can all go party.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to know. And Councillor Roberts.
Yes, the Milford Bay Community Center is having its annual Christmas party for children and adults. And it's going to be a lot of fun. This is this coming Saturday. I believe it starts at 11 a.m. and jam sandwich will be there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McIntyre.
Just to finish up, sorry, I forgot the other two. These are again from the library. Story times are being held 10:30 to 11:30 in Port Carling every Wednesday. And there's an warm indoor drop-in space Mondays 2 to 4:45 in the library in Bala.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Okay, are there any other events, things to talk about? No? I think that moves me to my final resolution. Moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Burry. Be it resolved that this meeting adjourn at 11:35 a.m. And the next regular meeting at the General Finance Committee be held on Wednesday, January the 14th, 2026 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair electronically from the Council Chambers Municipal Office in Port Carling, Ontario. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you very much, and we will see everyone.